Hey gang, here is a short and fairly raw video of what we were working on this past week, looking at the idea of drawing with pencil as an underdrawing, mapping kind of drawing, and then after we proceeded through those types of drawing, then we began to quickly look at different types of drawing with our pens on top of those, or maybe not on top of those drawings. So here we go. So here I have an underdrawing started, and at this point, I could decide that I want to go ahead and knock some of that down. But see, I don't want that kind of thing going on. I'll pull out my kneaded eraser, and it'll be much cleaner. But this gives me a place where I can start now. I can start looking at that and going, okay, I'm going to start with the lid, the little cap, and I might be coming in and at this moment, what I'm doing is I'm doing exterior contour, but I don't have to do that. But I'm going to play with it a little bit. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to stay right here and get some of the contours that I'm seeing here on this part, and I'll come out. And I'm not going to get it just perfect. But that's the nice thing about ink. You can keep adding ink on top of ink. But now I'll think, okay, maybe I'll come down, and I'm going to start out on the outer edge. Oops, started in too quickly. But the thing that the underdrawing allows you to have is it lets you be assured that you're basically right. That you're basically in the right space. That's what mapping is all about, is it lets you have things in about the right spaces. You have marks on a map. You know, if you're driving, you turn left when you get to route whatever. You have places that you go, I know that's where that starts. And then you get to decide how much you want to indicate where that starts or stops. Do I make it a big fat line? Do I make it a single contour line? What else do I do? Do I need to do anything at all? I mean, here I think I've got the shape pretty well. But it's coming in too much, looking a little bit too much like a wine bottle. But I can still add, thinking, okay, yeah, I had it about right, and I changed it. But you know what I can do? Yeah, there we go. That's probably a lot better right there. And then I can say, okay, now I can even decide, yeah, I have enough information that I can begin to add lights and darks. And right this minute, I'm doing shading with, remember the idea of parallel curved shapes, because I've got a curved in here. I've got things that are not that way. I might say, okay, there's a really heavy dark in here, and I don't have to make it parallel. I'm actually just making a nice dark, and then I can come up here and continue to play. I might make some of my marks look like they're going around the curve. There's a lot of little bumpy places in here, and there's a lot of dark down in here, and I might decide that's what I want to pay most attention to, is this heavy dark at the bottom. But in there's some places inside here where there's light in there. There's some middle value in there, and there's some real dark near the bottom. You'll find, by the way, if you're doing something like glass or metal, you'll find a lot of times the darkest darks and the lightest lights will be right smack up against each other. It'll be very quick transitions, and then a lot of middle ground in between. So here I'm not getting everything that I need yet, but I have a map for where I'm putting stuff. I don't have a map yet where the circle of the water inside is. It's not that high, John. It's closer to here. And there's a really dark section over here. And so I might start down thinking, and I'm not liking that. I'm not holding it steady enough. So what I might do at that point, I might say, okay, there's a label here. I have, I didn't put a mapping of where the label is. I'm sunk. I don't know where it goes. So not doing it slow might mean I have to work harder to get it to be feel continuous and like it works together. But here I'm simply following approximately the curve of the bottle vertically to create a dark. Now see, I've got lines in here that I'll probably want to hide maybe a little bit in a minute, but I don't have to worry about it right this second. But you get the idea. I've got to start, and you can keep working, and you can decide where you're going to put all your energy. I might decide to put nothing in the label. I might just be doing some darks. There's a big heavy dark on this side of the bottle here. There's a middle value in the middle. I'm sure it's coming from the gray of the table because it's certainly textured. And then there's a light space down in here, so I might mainly pay attention to this. And then other parts, it might be just contour lines. You don't have to do shading everywhere all the time. Now, if I wanted to do this one, this underdrawing, this will be different because there is no pencil work going on here. I might start in a very gestural kind of way you saw me working a minute ago. I might start with that, but I am stuck. These lines are not coming off, whatever I do here. So I might as well go ahead and admit that this is happening, and I have to accept what's going on. That's too high. You're thinking, but John, if you make a mistake, how are you going to get rid of it? The answer to that is very, very simple. You don't. You don't get rid of the mistake. You learn to make us look at it in a way that goes, I don't see the, yeah, now I see the mistake. Okay, he made a mistake. He's way off. It doesn't fit. Well, guess what? I can make that work because I can make you pay attention to the parts that are going to be exciting, interesting, bold, maybe. Because I believe in the combinations of delicate and bold together, richness and simplicity, if you can get away with it. And since I don't have a map of the Perrier label, I'm going to put one in now. I think the bottle is a little too, the paper's here. Tabletop is up here. John's not drawing the bottle. He's drawing the background. There's a reason for that. Because I don't want to draw as much about the cap as I could. I love the cap. But notice what I'm doing is I'm creating a negative shape of the cap by drawing around it more. But I am not going to completely close it off either. Oh, don't do hatching like that. At least not very often. Notice how it's getting a dark mark at the bottom where I'm changing directions. You see why I don't like this particular way of working? Unless that's a thing you can use to your advantage, okay? If I was matting it later on, I might be able to map out that because it creates too much. But then I can hide some of that by...
Would you rather just do single patch strokes?
A lot of times. Just unless that curve does something for you. Right. And you can hide it in a lot of other ways too. Come and play up and down a little bit. See, I don't have to do much more about that lid. I can have more on it if I want it, of course. I might have a line or two that are very carefully drawn. I might have a little bit of that little lumpy, bumpy around the lid where it breaks, and then there's those little indentations near the top that allow you to hold on to the lid when you're trying to take it off. So you can add lots of things that are in fact very realistic, but you can suggest them more than you put all of them in. No, you can't build a bridge out of suggestions, but you can build a picture of a bridge out of suggestions.
Well, I'm fine with that.
I know you are, but I have to talk to the engineers. It's like, so, and then you can decide where you're going to change direction. This particular pen does not give me lots of darker line capabilities, but it does give me, it does give me the thinner ones, allowing some of my other things to look a lot darker and heavier. See, now this can be a lot darker and heavier here, and then I might be doing that. Now, I'm not doing any real cross-hatching right this minute, but you can do cross-hatching if that's part of what you want to do. And you can use anything else you want. This is supposed to be bubbly, so it would make some sense to maybe suggest some of that with some little small shapes, or but the idea is you don't have to use only one kind of mark. Nan would be upset if I didn't use circles occasionally. So this is a mixture of different kinds of mark making all going on at the same time. And then I'm thinking, do I put the letters in? Do I even want the letters in there? I probably want something, and I probably do want something about that label. My idea is there's a dark and lightness. There's a dark inside the label, and there's a dark outside the label. The dark outside the label is actually more variable. But it's actually the darkest bits of the label are not as dark as the darkest bits of the glass. This is, it's ink underdrawing with ink on top. Some people would call that direct ink drawing. There's nothing standing in the way of paper and ink working together here. Does that make a little bit of sense? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is a very rough drawing. I'm obviously not doing a super careful, highly engineered, highly photographic drawing, but the truth is I can get pretty far along if I take the time. And it will be rougher probably than this one, but it will work. Okay? So what we're going to play with...
Do you want to keep this going? Or?
I'll take it from here. Okay. So what I will do here that I haven't done yet is I'm only going to take a second. The shadow seems to be going off in multiple directions because we've got light coming in from the window. We've also got bouncing multi-directional light up above. So it's not a super quick and simple shadow. It's very diffused right away. It's not overlapping. Whereas if I had only the window creating a shadow, I'd have a strong shadow coming off of this one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Strong shadow coming off of that one. But this one would be more diffused and overlapping bits of shadow down in here.
You're doing fine. Just getting a record for our colleague.
Okay, gang, getting ready to finish up this video. I will get you another one very shortly showing what we were doing when we switched over to using a brush instead of the pen. Talk to you soon.